gonna go ding.
Testing, yes.
I didn't have time to do research. It's on the record now.
Tell it to the judge.
I was inundated with work, and I was really focused on trying to get this the website up for our working group. I made some progress. It is tricky doing something with no money, creating a dynamic website.
Yeah.
But I made progress, and right now you can actually log in, and you could change your image. That's about all you can do right now. However, it's secure, and
What's the site? What site is it?
it's so right now it's being hosted on another server because the server that I bought space on, I can't make the site work on it because it's a Rails app. So if you go to the site is if you go to PAER.com .net or .org, one of those two.
PAERcom.net or .org?
Yeah, it'll automatically redirect you to another server, some big name, and then you can log in and you can change your avatar. So
Cool.
getting that was difficult because doing it for free is
Yeah.
extremely tough. It involves getting databases and
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's secure, but still, I wouldn't use a commonly used password, even though it's encrypted, so you can just log in. But that's the report back on the site.
All right.
Well, soon hopefully I'll have some capability where you can actually upload images. For now, I'm going to make it where we can upload an image. So in other words, we won't be able to modify any text documents. So whatever text documents you do type up, save it as a PDF, and then you can upload as an image for now. So we have more money, I guess.
What about like free hosting stuff, like WordPress or stuff like something like that?
Well, so if to create a WordPress website, yeah, I could do it. We could do it 2 seconds, right? Right. They have templates. You could just they have free templates. However, it's not dynamic.
Yeah.
You can't log in users, and if you do, you require. It's very inefficient, and it requires money to actually start doing it to create a dynamic website.
Aren't there a lot of like plugins for WordPress that allow you to do more stuff?
There are, but then that's when you start purchasing stuff.
Oh, really? I thought like a lot of the plugins were.
Well, and in order to be able to host that stuff,
Oh, okay.
because when he's so just creating a website and with a login, sure you can do that, but once you start uploading stuff, that's when you start needing space.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to figure out how to do that with very little money, and to give more information, we're going to be uploading. Everyone's going to be uploading their information somewhere else. I could recommend. I'm going to say we're going to use Amazon C3, where it's a cloud computing. They offer free storage.
They have free on Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So everyone's gonna create a bucket. I'm gonna show you how to do that eventually.
Okay.
So everyone's gonna create a bucket. That's where you're gonna dump all your stuff, and then I'm gonna have the website organize all that for you in a very concise way.
Cool.
But as we go on, but I do need a designer because the website is blank. So if anyone has any ideas or a designer,
Well, we might be able to contact Rena. She might be willing to do that, even though she's in San Francisco now. She just sent me an email, and I didn't actually just recently. I haven't checked. I haven't actually read it yet.
I have a cousin who's a web designer, but I'm not sure he's not very reliable, but I could ask him. Wouldn't hurt to ask him.
No, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, he does it for a living, so,
Cool.
he could probably do it pretty quickly.
I just need a design, something that would work for us.
Okay.
We need to have a conversation with them, and then everybody needs to say what they need.
I would prefer that you have the conversation with him because I'm completely inarticulate when it comes to anything involving a computer. So if he says he can devote some time to it, I'll just bring him to the meeting, or we'll have a phone number exchange or whatever.
Because I need the conversation to happen with everyone because I need to see what.
Then he needs to come to a meeting.
Right,
Is that what you're saying? He
yes.
needs to come to a meeting.
Yes, because it doesn't matter what I.
Okay.
It needs to work for everyone. Because if it doesn't work, then nobody's going to use it. It's like the documents part in the nycga.net website. It's just it doesn't make any sense. There's 50 documents there. Go find it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just go find
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But anyway, so that's the report card.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I was tasked with the approval voting method, and I, frankly, don't really understand it. It sounds, and even it says in here that it's very similar to what we currently have with
Yeah, I have a problem with that word too.
Thank you.
Plurality.
Plurality.
Holy shit. That one, and I can't figure out what the difference is. Do you know what approval voting is?
No, I don't know. I thought maybe it would have been a different word for range voting.
It's
No,
it's a simplified form of range voting.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that the one where we did red, white, and blue?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then that makes a little more sense.
Range voting is like you judge on a range from like say 0 to 5 or
Yeah,
0
it's
to
not a
100
0
or whatever.
or 1, yeah.
And approval is just 0 or 1.
Okay, so approval is 0 and 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we have.
It's like approve or not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I disapprove of.
But it's you know but it's different from plurality in the sense that like
Okay,
in
that's
plurality
what I-
you just
Okay,
right.
but I
Which
guess
one?
what I don't. Yeah, it's still a little weird to me. And there's these little examples down here that even with my glasses, I couldn't even begin to tell you what it says. These are examples.
Yeah, those are
Wow.
I have a
completely,
point of information.
Yes.
We have we programmed a voting platform. It's programmed. We just need a platform. We need an iPad. Once we get that, and then once you start playing with the different voting methods, it's so much easier to
you
understand
can
once
see,
you start
yeah, you can start
Okay.
doing it. Once you
Yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah.
engage in actually different voting
Like,
methods.
Seeing the math
Right.
of it. Yeah.
Right.
See, that's what I mean. I'm very visual. I need that.
that's where you can have like 10 different methods and just do it. An individual can just go through a simulation.
The program is coded. We just need a platform, so we're still raising money. So you committed $10, I believe I heard.
Yeah, $10.
Okay, so we have
Yeah,
$260.
I've been saving up money, so I'm waiting on the next check, and once I get that check, I'm just gonna
Might have 10
whatever.
now.
I'll just get it.
So we have 250, 260 raised right now.
And how much do you need?
We need, well, you don't have a job right now.
How much did we need? I forgot now.
So something. What was it?
I
It was
stamp
it was
this
two
10
it was
for-
$2.99. It was $2.99, right?
Yeah, with tax.
Yeah.
$299 with tax.
So less than $100.
So
And I haven't heard back from Scott either,
Okay.
so we might have to cover whatever what we assumed. But I'll cover it. Whatever. This is going on too long. It's becoming ridiculous.
Okay,
It's
whatever
already
you
ridiculous.
cover, I'll match you.
All right, cool.
All right, so just remember that. Just let me know.
All right.
I'll put another whatever on top of whatever.
All right.
Nobody put down.
So what did you find out about approval?
Well, it's just, it was. According to this, the things that I found most interesting were that it's more expressive. Well, why are we laughing?
Sorry.
No.
Nothing.
More expressive, which I think is pretty self-explanatory.
More expressive is plurality.
No, more expressive than
Plurality.
Than plurality. Oh fuck.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Come up with some alternative term for it that would
Yeah.
be easier to pronounce.
No, it's like
First past the post.
These have the same sections.
I don't know what
Doesn't
an
flow.
alternative way.
But some of these, again, I have to dig a little deeper. I didn't really understand what some of these points were. Like, I don't even know what a spoiled ballot is, or is a spoiled ballot just a bad, we don't know what the person is voting for? Is that what a spoiled ballot
It
is?
seems that way.
There are a number of ways in which a
Yeah,
ballot
I
can
know.
be considered spoiled. If say, they vote like on the current way we vote. If you say you check or whatever you check off, a spoiled ballot is basically it's impossible to determine the intent of the voter.
That's
either
okay,
because
that's what
either because
a hanging
they,
Chad.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Either maybe they they voted for Bush and for Gore.
You don't know what the intent was.
Then that can't be counted, right? That's a spoiled ballot.
I wonder if that's a legal term. Spoiled.
It is.
Well, according to this, it
ridiculous.
seems to be, yeah.
It is, yeah, it's definitely the technical term.
Okay.
But I mean, I've read all this is a great website actually. That's
What is it?
electology, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, electology.
Yeah. It's.
Election science.
But
Yeah, I did a double. I did a Center for Election Science. I did a double, recycled paper, so the back isn't right. And this was actually a very interesting question. Does it approve? I'm sorry. Does approval voting violate one person, one vote? And their answer to that is no, because the term one person, one vote refers to the weight of votes, not to how votes are expressed,
Right.
which I found really interesting.
Limits expression.
And in approval voting, all ballots have the same weight. Anyway, so what I was hoping, if unless you want to wait until we have all the other methods and we can do a little comparison of the, like we did with the red, white, and blue, because that was very illustrative to me.
yeah, well, approval voting is just. I mean, right now it's pick one, right? If you have a list of candidates, the vote is, under plurality is
Right.
check the one that you want. Under approval, it's just check all that you approve of.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
That's why I like the range.
Range is more expressive, yeah. It's like
That's, I guess, if you have an opinion of, if you have 10 people, I mean, how many people are going to have an opinion about 10 candidates, really?
Right.
It's probably very unlikely. But I like that option. Because you can also just not have any opinion. That can be calculated into it. But if you have,
Can you
three people
with this?
with approval,
You have to. There's a
range voting.
With range, you can actually say I don't like anybody.
Well, if you have 3 people, let's say you can get, like Amazon, you can rate a book 5 stars.
Right.
Let's say you have 3 books. Can you name your favorite 3 books? I can't really name my favorite 3. But let's say you
was
had,
given a little time to think about it, but not
right.
off the
Let's
top of my
say
head.
so. Let's say you had 3. Now imagine that as a candidate, for this book is going to be introduced to this library, which will then be introduced to these kids, which will influence their curriculum or whatever. So the range of that would be, let's say, if you say, oh well, I would want the 5-star to be introduced to that sequence, right? Whereas you have your other 2 books, I wouldn't want them to influence this curriculum as much as my 5-star. So you have maybe a 4-star and a 3-star, or a 5-star, 3-star, 1-star. There is a. That's why it's a range. It could be 10 stars. It could be 5 stars. Instead of a one,
Okay.
I just approve this one thing. I
Okay.
disapprove of this one other thing.
Okay.
yeah. Do you guys know about the voting experiment that Stefan just talked about?
I've heard about it for a while. I haven't.
Wait, what
This is something we developed early on, which has been languishing for lack of an iPad.
And that's on the web page. There was a
there's a little
there was a
bit of it.
URL.
Yeah, there was a URL just
Experimental
to get money, just to
elections.
raise money. Yeah, to raise money for it. But the experiment is basically Stefan wrote this a program that would basically run where we were hoping a scientific, if not, or quasi-scientific, if not hopefully scientific, style experiment. where
Eventually, yeah, we were hoping to have it in this park.
yeah,
So-
exactly.
Oh, cool.
Where and I mean, it just basically it's like a voting platform, like a mobile
I love
voting
this.
booth, and what
Yeah.
it does is just it goes through.
That's good. Yeah.
It would allow you to create an election or whatever, a list of choices. It wouldn't have to be people. It could be animals or colors or whatever. The point is to test the method of voting, not to get a specific example. It just runs through. You just basically do the same election. Say choose your favorite color of the rainbow. And then it does the same thing under plurality. Pick one, ranked choice, which is rate your top 3 in order of preference, approval, and range voting, and that's it. And if it worked and we did it properly, it would have scientific validity to it, the outcome of it. And it could also be used as a polling platform, I think, right?
Yeah.
We could also conduct surveys with it. It'd be
Right.
very, very versatile.
There was something else that I read, and I don't think I didn't bring that one with me, and on another website for approval voting about how this is already employed in in some municipalities around the country, this particular method.
Really?
Yeah, I'd like to find out all the different
In the
voting methods. that are-
UN, they use
and
it to elect
access.
the Secretary General. Yeah, I wish I had that with me now.
I've never heard of it that it's used in any municipalities around the country.
I'll have to go back and check that again. I'm pretty sure that's what it said.
Interesting.
I may be remembering it wrong, but it was definitely the UN.
I think they use range voting to determine the Oscars, not the winner, but to determine the 5 whatever films that are nominated or whatever to determine the nominations. They use range voting.
What was the name of the one that we talked about that's used in San Francisco? Which one is that?
That's ranked choice.
That's ranked choice.
Yeah, which is also called instant runoff.
Yes, I was working for a friend of mine was running for Board of Supervisors, and he's currently an assistant U.S. attorney. I've known him since he was 5 years old, and so I went out there to help run his work on his campaign. And when I got out there, he's like, "Okay, I have to explain this to you now," and I was going, "I have no idea what you're talking about." It was really hard to grasp at first. Once you get it, you get it.
Yeah.
But it took me a while. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This whole, then the second guy moves up, and then maybe this whole thing, and it could be that the second place guy actually wins the election, and it was very weird.
It's not as complicated as it sometimes seems. I mean,
Right.
You just think of it as like, I don't know, because it's like rank your top 3 in order of preference. That's simple enough, right?
Right. But
Is
it was
it?
the
No. So I did some research. I didn't do research about. I did research. I recall I did research 2 weeks ago, initially. So one of the first things I was looking at was ranked choice voting, right? So there's a New York Times article, right? I'll just read briefly. Despite $300,000 in educational campaign leading up to last month's election, including a new smiley face, mascot, publicity events, and advertising on buses and newspapers, only 1/3 of voters on November 8th filled out all 3 choices in all 3 races, according to analysis released this week by the University of San Francisco. Under the city's system, voters were asked to rank their top 3 choices for mayor, sheriff, and district attorney. Perhaps the analysis and most troubling finding is that 9% of voters, mostly in Chinatown and in certain neighborhoods like the Bayview Market, only one choice for each office, either because blah blah blah, consider only one candidate. Some people just prefer to rank one. Some people just prefer to rank one. And so, in other words, there was confusion about how to do it. So it's not as simple as you would think, because even though they spent $300,000.
I did a fair amount of research into it, and I think there was. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
So I had to write a couple articles on it, and I think that there are people in the San Francisco Board of Supervisors who are on the warpath to stop this, and I think they're actually misinforming people about things and actively creating confusion about the
Really,
system.
politicians would do such a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I mean
Shocked and horrified.
the day of the election, these two people on the board of supervisors released a press release.
Who were they? Do you remember who they
I
were?
forget their names. You can look it up. They released a press release at 4 in the morning, the day of the election, declaring ranked choice to be a failed experiment. Before the vote even happened, before polls even opened, they had this press release saying
That article says that too, because there were our officials who say that it's dead before they even.
before it even happened. They're like, this is a failed experiment. This is chaos. And it's like, what? It didn't even happen yet. I mean, they're actively creating.
Which is actually good that they said that at that time, because then that helps discredit them.
Yeah, definitely.
By that type of behavior.
And then they held a press conference at
Publicly,
whatever in the morning.
I mean, it is working in however many cities
Yeah.
around the country.
But yeah, I mean, it's basically just instant runoff, the way you count it. I mean, I guess you can set it up to count it different ways, but the way I understand it is that, you count everyone's top choice, and then if no one has a majority, then you just start counting people's second choices. That's it, until someone has a majority.
Right, but that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Is the second choice, the people's second choice, could actually wind up winning the election.
Yeah.
Because they got more votes than the people who wanted. It's psychologically a little difficult to understand when you it's like, how could the second place guy win?
Well, just think of it as like, think of it as it's really, I mean, sometimes it's called instant runoff because it's kind of like a runoff election.
Right,
you
right,
know?
right, right. Well, that's
There
the
would be
way
two-
Abraham
there-
was explaining it. to
There
me,
would be
so
two.
it's
There would be
runoff.
2 elections, right? There would
Yeah.
be 2 rounds. So, but you're just having those 2 rounds at the same time,
Right.
which is why there's a top line and a second line. You know?
And the benefit is it's better to have your second choice win than the person you hate the most win, with far less than a majority,
Right.
which is often what happens.
Right.
But I think after you actually just do it, it's intuitive. It becomes more intuitively obvious rather than just having like trying to understand it conceptually and how it works. You don't have to understand how the counting works in order to do it.
Don't you? I mean, but as a voter, shouldn't you, like, wouldn't you feel comfortable understanding?
Yes, you should. But
going on.
you don't. But I'm just saying, you don't have to know how an internal combustion engine works to drive a car.
So then why did these people in San Francisco, I think it was, why did they only choose one person instead of when the requirement was 3?
Well, you don't
Right.
have to. I mean, there's no requirement saying that you have to choose 3. You could just choose one. That could be.
Well,
I mean,
they're-
they could have not understood, I guess, that they could do that, or they could have understood and just opted not to. Say, like, this is the person I want. I hate everyone else. Why would I put them on a list? That's a possibility. But I did hear that there was confusion in immigrant communities and like Chinatown and some Hispanic communities.
Yeah.
But that's that just requires voter education. And there was also they were like, oh, this caused all this confusion, blah blah blah. It's like, well, there's confusion under plurality too, but for some reason that's not an argument against plurality.
Yeah, there's
Right.
there's not confusion. There's no zone of non-confusion anywhere
Yeah.
in human endeavors.
I haven't found any. I didn't do a lot of research, but I haven't found any article that would say why this type of voting is better, or possibly better. Not, you can't say definitively. that it's better.
Well, one of the arguments they say is that it gets rid of the spoiler effect. But people
It'd be hard to find articles that actually talk about it.
positively.
Yeah.
There's a lot of op-eds and stuff. If you go to fairvote.org, they'll list a lot of them.
A Google search, a quick. I'm telling you, like,
Oh yeah.
ignorant people search. Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fairvote has a ton of information on it. That's one of their
Yeah, I'm
big
surprised that Google
issues.
wouldn't find it. Usually it knows what you're thinking.
Scarily
Seems
enough.
to. Yeah.
But yeah.
I was wondering how, because there was a clip about prison, as far as districts and prisons inside a district, counting them as a population and that sort of thing. There was a vote where there was like 3 people qualified to vote or something in some tiny town. So some guy got elected. So my interest would be that should never happen. I think there should be a certain number of people required to vote, to have someone becoming elected. Just like, let's say there was a boycott. Let's say there was a boycott on the
That would
presidency.
disqualify many of the people who are currently in elected office.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. 60% of the population doesn't vote.
Yeah.
I think that should be. You shouldn't be able to run. You shouldn't be able to be elected president. I'm not saying that's as an absolute statement, but I think it's interesting that you shouldn't. Let's say that it was gridlock because there wasn't enough people that voted. President or mayor of, shit town, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a great idea. I mean, almost everything they do is designed to suppress the vote. Major parties.
Like I remember, I first started thinking about that at the beginning. Like the first election I was qualified to vote in, which I didn't vote in because I thought it was bullshit, was the 1996 election, in which less than 50% of people who were eligible to vote. It was like 49% voter turnout. People were like, "Oh, Bill Clinton wins with a majority." It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's
like,
just not true.
less than half the people even
Far
voted.
less
It's like
than the majority.
he's got like less than a quarter of votes of support.
I got an idea too. What if you connect there so they their salary directly to the amount of people that actually
What's
vote.
in their account?
Wait,
They
what?
connect their salary to the amount of people that vote for them. So, for every person, they get 1 penny for their yearly salary. And
a bonus.
of course, the goal be vote.
A penny for your
Right.
vote.
So how would changing these how would we address the electoral college with changing our voting method? Would we have to go after that as a separate issue, or would this be part of?
That's a constitutional amendment, right? For the
Yeah.
electoral college.
To get rid of the electoral college, yeah, would require.
Is
but
that
I-
is that constitutional? Really?
Yeah, that's right. It requires a
Yeah, it's a weird idea.
Yeah, to get rid of the. But
There is a movement afoot to get every state to agree that they will award all their electoral votes to the winner of the national popular vote. And that would sort of de facto get rid of the electoral college, because it would mean that you couldn't elect somebody in the electoral college like George Bush, who didn't win
The popular
vote.
right?
yeah, that's the national popular.
But I think it's really hard to explain that
Vote
thing,
compact.
national popular vote thing. Yeah.
Well, basically, it's just like the states pass a law saying that they'll award their electoral college votes to the winner of the national vote or the national popular vote.
And it actually wouldn't take all the states.
Yeah.
You know, if you even had like a few of the bigger states that have a bigger chunk of the electoral votes, that would probably do it. Although the idea is you want everybody.
I think already. I was just looking into that. I
quite a
think
few, right?
like 9 or 10 states have already signed on with electoral votes equaling like 136 or something. Like they're halfway there. And I think the compact doesn't kick in until enough states have signed on so that states with a majority of electoral votes have signed onto the compact. Like so, it's 270 electoral votes. So when 270 electoral votes have been pledged to the compact, then it kicks in.
I mean, most of the IRV elections now are municipal elections, right?
Is
So it
IRV?
wouldn't instant runoff voting or
Like ranked choice.
voting. But yeah, if we were going to have ranked choice for president, that would be you'd have to either get rid of the electoral college or have sort of IRV there, I guess. I mean, there are some states, I think Maine and Arizona maybe, that award their electoral college votes proportionally.
Oh yeah.
So that if, Al Gore gets 60% of electoral votes in Maine, instead of giving them all the electoral votes, they give them 60%, which is the way it should be.
These people are appointed by who? Electoral college is appointed by who?
They're by the voters.
State.
Voters vote. I mean, when you vote for president, you're not voting for president. You're voting for the electors.
You're voting for delegates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Their party.
So there's not
functionaries.
actually an electoral college that consists of human beings.
Well, it's not a standing body. It's like it only
It's a
exists.
process.
It elects an actual body of people to a convention, who then nominate the president, or who then
Yeah.
pick.
I know in the Green Party
vote.
we had to name a certain number of people that would be our representatives in the electoral college, whatever.
But it's not a standing body. It's just it only exists for the purpose of
Each
choosing a president,
presidential-
and then it's dissolved. Which I only happen to know this because I just was reading the Federalist Papers the other day.
So where in the Constitution? I'm trying to find this
Light reading.
the whole notion of the electoral college in the Constitution. I can't find it. Do you know where it is?
I have no idea. Was it something that was added on?
Yeah,
Well, because we were saying that.
I think it's in one of the amendments.
Well, I'm looking at the amendment. It's an amendment because my Roman numeral is bad. 19, right of citizens in the United
Never
States
heard
to
of a
vote.
time when we didn't have it, but
That's true.
And then it gives 20 is terms of the president. 21.
the language about God was only added to the Pledge of Allegiance in the 50s.
Yeah,
As part of the
1954.
Red Scare. Godless communists.
There should be an amendment to abolish the Supreme Court as well.
abolish the Supreme Court. Abolish the word Supreme from the court.
You're an ordinary court.
Court.
9 people?
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
Like a supreme pizza.
or at least term limit them.
24 rights of citizens.
3 days.
Wait, 24.
Sorry.
3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Did it say anything about presidential elections?
It says 24 is the rights of citizens to vote in any primary or other election for president or vice president, for electors, for for electors for president or vice president.
Yeah, that's it.
Or for senator or representative, that's the one it was, shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason of failure to pay any, no, for reason to pay any poll tax or
Poll tax.
poll tax. That's poll
Because
tax.
certainly many
Getting
people are
money.
denied the right to vote every day.
Money
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything,
college
yes.
to the term college.
An
Supreme college.
ID, requiring ID is a poll tax. Because
Yeah, it is.
some people cannot
It is,
afford to
it
take
is
time off,
absolutely
so-
is a poll tax.
Right, and you might need to have a social security card or something and go and get that.
Right. Right. Luckily, that's happening. None in this state. Actually,
So if you guys want to hear about that meeting about campaign finance reform, I can report on that at
Yeah,
some point.
I would love to hear about that.
Okay.
What is the meeting?
Um,
Physical
you-
meeting or
you-
telecom?
you're-
a physical meeting.
We're being
we're
recorded.
recording right now. Is it? You have a problem with that?
No, no.
Okay.
It's gonna be global.
What was the? What was
I was just saying, and I had sent a note that we might put it on the agenda to talk about there's a meeting of a bunch of people about the campaign finance reform effort, which is supposedly forming now in New York State
This was where?
at Citizen Action,
Citizen Action.
where they convened it.
Okay, I vaguely heard something
Yeah,
that was going on.
there's a bunch of different groups involved in it.
Right,
Which
right.
they can,
All local, like a local coalition.
yeah.
Cool. Well, it's Article 2, Section 1. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress, but no senator or representative can be an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom at least one shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves, and they shall make a list of all persons voted for and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president.
Tiebreaker.
And then you reach for the toilet paper and wipe your ass.
Exactly, yes.
The language is so.
I don't want that image.
Update, yeah, like 2012.
So that was the thing with in Florida with Bush versus Gore. I remember it's about certifying those electors,
Yeah,
which they couldn't do because they couldn't choose the winner.
yeah. So
Wasn't
basically,
there actually a block to count votes in that state? They wanted to do a recount. They actually
yeah, they blocked
legally
it.
are able to block.
Yeah, the Supreme Court stopped it, right?
Yes.
I mean, it was ongoing, and the Supreme
Right.
Court
Yeah.
said
Well, it
no.
was partly Al Gore's fault because they didn't want to count all the ballots, mind you. They just wanted to count the counties where they felt that they were
Well,
stronger.
that
Yeah.
makes me wonder, what do
So
they
then the
do
whole
with
thing
those
went-
ballots then? Once it's all finished?
Look
Where
at the
are
other
those?
ballot,
Do they
goes to
burn
shredder.
them? Do they put them in a museum?
I think that some
You wouldn't wanna
newspapers
recount
went
them if
back
they're
and
in a
counted
museum.
them.
They did,
all
yeah, the
afterwards,
newspapers went
didn't
out,
they?
yeah.
Yeah, there was
Oh, they
like
did?
a bunch of consortium of newspapers counted them all, and I think,
I'm surprised
I
they
think they
didn't have a
discovered that Al
block
Gore
for
won,
them
and
to
of
not
course at
allow
that
the
point
media
it
to
didn't
touch
matter.
Well, and it's like
Yeah.
the
See
debacle
what
in
room they're
Iowa
in.
with the caucus.
Right.
Freaking, it's like, oh, we don't know.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Somebody
you
won.
know,
It might have been Romney. Could have been Santorum. We're not sure. We're missing a whole bunch of votes. But, you know,
they
go
never
on,
answered
move
like
on to New
what
Hampshire
happened
now.
to those precincts that
Yeah.
just disappeared.
I just
They did. No, they did. They did. They announced Santorum the winner.
Right.
Like 2 weeks after.
But at the
announcing
same time,
Romney.
there was still some precincts missing, weren't there?
Oh, I don't know. I thought they found them.
Oh, maybe they found them all. I'm not sure.
I just saw a
don't think they
report that in the 2010 elections that like 17% of votes in New York State were uncounted, or sorry, New York City were uncounted.
did. Oh yeah,
Seven-
the Brennan
Yeah, like
Center.
one
They
out of
just
6
found
votes.
them. Like they
Like
just
1 out of
found
6
them.
votes just like went uncounted. I just
Oh,
saw
Guy
yeah.
that.
was
Unbelievable
cleaning
what
up
they do.
in some closet.
Like,
Like,
oh,
oh, shit, we found all these
bummer.
bags of votes
Our
that
city
weren't counted.
council candidate in Park Slope found another. He went from 7% to 9% because they had been counting, their own people coming out of the polls, people that they were pretty sure were going to support them. It was only a few precincts, and then the vote totals came in, and they were like really much lower than they should have been. And we had a guy who knows about these things, and I guess went to the election board and was able to literally find the votes. Oh, those votes, right. But if we hadn't done that, they wouldn't have been counted.
Those are votes?
Man,
Yeah.
oh,
Didn't
yeah,
know
that's
those.
pretty scary.
That old thing?
Oh, it's like, oh, did you want me to
Only
count
matters
those?
who counts.
It really is, especially when you consider that some of these, well, Bush v. Gore was, I mean, they're close elections. How many times is this going to happen?
Oh, you can't.
In how many times
times
has it
has
happened
it
with the
happened?
legislature? I mean, forget about president, but I mean, we've got congressional races every 2 years.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, you can govern spoiled votes, but you can't govern spoiled minds. That ends up being the whole thing. If you can find the votes, right?
Yeah.
And identify them as being
Well, if you have more
legitimate or
turnout and it's
spoiled.
not so close, it's like a close ball game. If it comes down to 2 points, so many things can go wrong. But if if you played a stronger game and you're further out in front, you're less likely to be,
Right.
done in by
Right.
some small
right,
thing.
right.
Well, if you had more of the population that cared too, then you would have more people inquiring and more people demanding and more people
Yeah.
out, making sure that there would be more eyeballs on the bugs,
Right.
potential bugs.
But it comes down to just watching them. And it's like election day is such a long day, from like at least in New York. In Indiana, it's not because they close the polls at 6 p.m. But
Well, I mean, has there
it's
ever
like
been
7 a.m.
has
to
there ever
9
not been
One day though, I mean, why does it all have to be done in one day? That to me is also a problem. Compressing
not in
all
other
this into
countries.
one
What,
exhausting.
to vote for president, you mean?
Regardless, like the
Any
idea
election,
that
right?
you have to get everything done in one day to me seems somewhat irrational. Also, if
We
it's
could have a voting
extremely
week.
important,
Why
yeah,
couldn't
if
we
it's
have
like
a
extremely important, we have to get things done methodically, and maybe we might have to do it 5 times to make sure we got it right. You're certainly not going to accomplish that in 24 hours or 12 hours. So this idea that we have this
this frantic, rush and just everyone needs to go to these schools and wait in line for hours and all this. It's just that to me in itself is a problem. You're forcing people into this funnel of time compression. I don't think that's fair.
No, the more votes sit around, fill out ballots, the more likely they're going to vanish.
Right.
You're going to grow feet and walk out the room.
Right.
Well, some states have early voting.
You got the guy outside the bakery, right? Put that guy out. Forget the bakery.
I don't mind. I don't
go to where
mind
the votes
having the notion of having the election take place over the course of days. But I wouldn't want to see something like our current primary system, where we've got Iowa deciding, and they're not doing a very good job of it. Iowa
Right.
deciding who I, as a New Yorker, get to vote for, because they have to, before they get to me, they got to get through Iowa, they got to get through New Hampshire,
Yeah.
they got to
Although, don't you
get
think
through
it's
South Carolina
partly
and
the
Florida
media?
to get before they get to
Yeah.
Super Tuesday, and then, well, a lot of it that's a
Right,
money.
'cause
That's
the
more of a
media
money issue.
Says that it's decided when not
Yeah,
even
it
2%
is.
of
It
the
is the
electoral
media. It's the media, and
votes have been
it's the money
decided,
issue,
the
because it's
convention
about, well,
votes,
is he going to have
delegates.
or she's going to have enough money to get through New Hampshire and
nominated.
then to get to Super Tuesday, and it became so
One major
glaringly annoying to me with this most recent presidential election, because I was not an Obama supporter. I wasn't even sure I wasn't even a Clinton supporter.
I gave him my money and my vote.
And I was like, I really want
Yeah,
to
you
just
don't
find
have
out
a
about
vote.
these other candidates.
Vote with your gun.
And by the time we got to New York, I had a choice of 3 out of what were the original 7 or something, 6 or 7. I was like, how is that? How does Iowa get to decide who I vote for? It pisses me off.
Yeah. And actually, I just learned about this. It's because there's the law in Iowa that Iowa will hold the first caucus, first in the nation. Like, that's their state law.
Because Iowa's so representative of the rest of the country.
They just have a state law that says, like,
So they would
we
just-
have to hold the first.
If anyone
the
else
first,
moved
the
theirs,
first
they
one.
would just move theirs.
Yep.
What if 49
That's
states
what's been happening.
all have the same
It's been
law?
getting earlier and earlier,
That's a good
and they're
question.
talking about it
You'd have to
possibly
go
now
to
even going
49
into
states.
December,
Crossing
because other states are
Wow.
going to start moving it. So we're just going to have Christmas primaries now.
Yay.
It's ridiculous.
Can you imagine?
It'll just be we'll hold like the presidential election and the next presidential primary on the same day.
Exactly. That was the other thing, is I would love to see the campaign season much shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have what is it, in Great Britain, I think they have a law that restricts it to 6 months. Am I
think
right
6
about
weeks.
that? 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, 6 months.
That would be Because right
6
now
weeks.
we're up
It's
to
like
2
a
years.
year.
Our
Yeah.
presidential campaigns are 2 years long.
What would the media do if they were shorter?
They've got the Kardashians.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
Keep them busy. Yes, go cover them. Yeah, sure.
They got plenty to do.
But seriously, it's too damn long. It's too
And
too
that's
long,
part of
it's
the
too
reason the
expensive.
money gets so big. It's so
Right.
prohibitive.
Right.
Because you've got to have a big staff and advertising and everything over
For-
that
for 2 years.
long period
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah, the
Campaign
advertisers
season.
love that.
What's that?
Oh, it's a lot of
Advertisers
money
love
for media.
the amount of time.
Yep.
They love time.
Oh,
television,
They love
it's-
words. They like Super Tuesday. It's gonna be Super Duper Tuesday soon.
Especially this
Super
year.
Bowl. Today's Super Bowl.
Super Duper Whooper Tuesday.
Advertising today's like a
They
major
don't even have
advertising.
enough
Is
time
today
to
the Super
sell
Bowl?
with all the people that
Super Bowl Sunday.
throw money.
Today is the Super Bowl?
No, it's next week.
I think it's next week.
It's the
It's
end.
next
it's
week.
the end of.
What does the media
Supposed to be
say?
the end of January.
No, it's next week. I know because they
They usually
were.
wait a week,
Yeah, it's 2 weeks after the last game for some reason.
2 weeks.
I'm
Yeah.
loving the whole Indiana Union thing.
Me too. Although I'm so sad they gave in. They should have taken it.
did?
So what?
Oh,
What are you talking about?
Union.
I've
Yeah,
been a
in
little off
Indiana,
grid.
they have a Republican governor, Mitch Daniels, and he's been pushing a right to work
Yeah.
law,
Yes.
right to work for less, and
No.
The right to work for less money.
yeah. Well, right to work basically means that unions aren't allowed to charge dues. They can operate in the state, but they can't.
I don't remember. Like, okay.
Yeah, if
I
they
thought it was just the opposite.
so that
To
you
work
know.
for less.
So unions can't really operate because if you have to, have staff and represent people and run elections and organize, and people aren't paying dues,
You're taking
you have
away
no
their,
income.
Oh, so the
their-
unions are prohibiting
What's the
people
word
from
I'm looking for? Yeah.
Right? No, not at all. Well, unions never,
That's the
never
argument.
have, but that's their
argument.
argument. So, and a lot of states in the South have these right-to-work laws, and so it's very hard to unionize in the South, although it has been done. But it's even like if you organize and you win a vote, that's hard enough. But then to keep operating, when you have to beg people every month to pay you, whereas in regular states, it's a check-off. They make a deal with the union, as I'm in a union, that money goes automatically to my union every month, percentage of my salary. So it's a big deal
What percentage is it?
it's 1.5%. So it's not that bad. I mean, it's worth it to me. But so they had this thing in Indiana, and it was like the same thing in Wisconsin, where the Democratic legislatures split the state. They left so they wouldn't have to vote. And there's been demonstrations every day in the Capitol and all this stuff. And then the Republicans passed a law that said they're going to fine the Democratic legislatures $1,000 for every day that they're not sitting there, to allow them to take this vote, because Republicans had a majority, but without some Democrats, they didn't have a quorum, and they couldn't vote the right to work bill
Who
in.
instigated the fine?
The
idea?
Republicans.
How is that even legal? How can the Republicans tell the Democrats? We're going to fine you.
Isn't that crazy? Well, they're just
You
going to say,
and
we'll
what,
fine
Army?
anybody who doesn't show up for work, I guess, which could
how
be
they
interesting,
enforce
because there's
it.
a lot of legislators who never show up on any given day.
Are they going to call the National Guard to knock on
Exactly.
knock
I
on the
mean, if
door
I
and
was
say,
them, I
"Yo,
just would have
stop"?
said, try to
They
get
did
that
that in
money from me.
Texas, right?
Just
They called the
try.
National Guard on the legislators who fled town. That was Texas, right?
Yes.
few years
it was in
ago.
Texas too. Yeah. So they were trying to drag it out until
Or
the
not the
Super
National
Bowl.
Guard, the state guard or whatever.
And they were trying to drag it out until the Super Bowl, because this is bringing more attention to Indiana than is ever paid.
Indianapolis.
Yeah, in Indianapolis. But they just gave in a couple days ago, so took the vote. So it's-
I don't know what kind of demonstrations are going to be going on before the Super Bowl.
Something's gonna be
People
going
want
on,
it.
right?
There's been talk about it about a month ago.
yeah.
More than
Hopefully, I'm sure they'll still do some.
But I
It's
didn't.
big.
I don't know how it's been developing.
There's John Mellencamp when you need him. Me too.
That's getting hard.
How does that relate to? He's not from Indiana.
He is from Indiana.
Oh, yes, he is.
Oh, yeah. He's
Thought
from
he was-
Bloomington, Indiana.
And that's where he lives.
Still lives here. Oh, yeah. He's from Hartford.
He's Indiana's Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, yeah. He's probably one of the most, if not the most famous person to ever come out of Indiana. Except for David
Michael
Letterman.
Jackson
He's
from
also from
Indiana.
Indiana.
Also, actually,
David Letterman.
Michael
Oh, is it?
Jackson.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson was born in Indiana.
Oh, that's right, in Gary. Yeah, stand correct.
How does Michael Jackson vote? He doesn't, right?
Well, he's dead,
Not
but
anymore.
in
How did
Chicago
he-
that wouldn't
how
prevent
did
him
he
from
go?
voting. I don't think he ever expressed any politics. Not that I was aware.
He's got a notebook.
Well, he's got those things like "We Are the World" and that sort of thing. He's supportive. But I never knew him to come out for a politician.
So which voting method do you prefer out of?
Well, I only looked at this one.
Only looked at this one? Okay.
I
It's confusing.
really
Prefer.
would have to sit down and do the graph thing.
Right.
The one that Itzhak was describing. What was that one that he was describing to us?
He was talking about proportional representation, which is separate, which is different from a voting method. It's you know a fair amount
Yes.
about proportional representation. Can you explain like how it differs from just an alternative voting method?
Well, the way it's often described these days, which makes sense to me, I don't know if it makes sense to everybody, is that you have the concept of ranked choice voting. And in a
What
single
choice?
seat ranked choice
Ranked choice.
voting, there's a couple of different forms of it. So if you have a single seat election, like for president, there's one office and one guy who's going to sit in it. You get to rank your choice by ranking whatever candidates 1, 2, 3. In a legislature, where you have multiple seats, there's different ways that you can choose to apportion those seats. What we're most familiar with is what's called a single seat district. So in the House of Representatives, there's 435 districts, and each district elects one person, right?
Right.
So what that means is, and the districts are all supposed to be roughly the same size, but what that means is you get 51% of the vote, or say 40% of the vote if there's 3 candidates, and you'll get that one seat. And those other people who
Right.
voted, these other candidates had maybe 30, 40, 49.5% support, they get nothing, no
Tough luck.
representation.
We won. Yeah.
Right. So it really just leaves a lot of people not represented.
Right.
So what you can do, for example, in most countries in the world have what's called proportional representation, where when you have a multi-seat district, people get to cast their votes for multiple people, and lower levels of support still get a seat at the table. My favorite example is in Peoria, Illinois, of all places, in their city council. They have what I personally think is kind of the ideal system, which they were forced into basically because one of the few good things we have in our electoral system, I think, is that with the Voting Rights Act, they said you've got to make sure that minorities, racial minorities, are represented, have a chance to be represented. And they found in Peoria the way that the election districts were drawn, for example, the black population wasn't able to be represented. So this is what they came up with. They have 10 seats in their city council. They have 5 districts in the city. So each one of those districts elects their one representative who's supposed to represent, that neighborhood or whatever it is. And then the other 5 seats are what's called at-large. So each person in the population can cast 5 votes, 5 seats. So
Okay. Yeah.
So you could have somebody who essentially has support from a smaller percentage of the population still gets represented, because you're not only voting for one person, you're voting for 5 people, and the top 5 vote getters
I like the sound of that.
are going to get those
That
seats.
sounds yeah.
So all the blacks who get together and be sure with their 20%
Is
of
there
the
anywhere else
population,
in the
let's say,
country
they're going
that's
to get a
doing that
representative.
besides Peoria?
I don't know.
Similar things have been used in the past. New York City used a form of proportional representation in the 30s.
Into the 40s, yeah.
To break. I mean, it's been implemented like for short periods of time at like the municipal level to break party monopolies in government,
Right.
and then was
Which is exactly what we have now.
exactly. It's been used to do that, and then was either after it achieved its goal, it was gotten rid of, or the party machine regrouped and forced.
Well, there was
forcibly
a
removed
black
it.
communist who was elected to the city council,
Yeah.
and that was about the time they decided that
That's
the goal had been
right.
met.
Yeah, I read about that. Yep.
Black communists
Yeah.
in the 30s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can't have that
Yeah,
much
they
freedom.
said we got to be
No.
careful. Right, we can't
That's a little too
allow
much.
the people to choose their elected officials. Oh dear.
Right. And I mean, in Europe, I think the way it largely is what's called party list. So they have, like in Ireland, I think they have like 7 parties, basically. And so you would cast your vote for the, let's say, the 20 seats in the legislature. You cast your votes for the Green Party, and then let's say the Green Party got 30% of the vote, the Green Party would get 30% of the seats. If there was 100 seats in the legislature, they would get 30 of those seats, and the party would have its list of people that they would
That
put
makes
in those
sense to me
seats.
too.
Yeah. And they'd be identified with that party's platform, what
All
they
of these
stand
things
for.
sound so much better than what we're currently doing.
For sure.
They sure are.
How would you represent those who don't vote? Would be the other.
Well, you can't win if you don't play.
Yeah, the percentages, like the percentages make sense, and then you have the percentage.
You have an empty seat.
Right.
They have none of the
Anybody who
above
doesn't
in
vote can fill
in
a
Las
seat
Vegas,
for,
I
like, one
think.
day.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, but that hasn't actually affected voter turnout as much as they thought it would.
Yeah, but I like the idea of leaving an office empty. I like the idea of like if
Yeah, if
we don't-
20% didn't
if we don't
vote,
get a
2
quorum
empty
of
seats.
votes, if there weren't enough voters, like you fine, sorry, you don't get a representative. You
That
will
would be
you will
great.
get nothing.
Because that would really force people to try to get turnout instead of
Yeah.
get
And
people to stay home.
if their numbers could relate to their pay, their income, that would be 1 penny per voter that shows up.
They'd make up a lot of fake voters, I think.
There are
Or
countries
that, or
where
whatever,
you
come
have
to your
to
door.
vote. Australia
I mean, that's
is one.
what-
I think
Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
They have to vote. You
Yeah.
have to
Oh
vote.
yeah, yeah.
You're paying
What
a
happens if
fine.
you don't? You get a fine?
No
It's fine.
idea
That's
of
awesome.
What happens if we don't?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a little coercion.
I'm not sure that would work here, but still, there's a, and I'm sure I'm not saying anything new, but there is a tremendous amount of apathy and misinformation
Things are missing.
on the whole bloody business. And I, being who I am, I on my Facebook wall, I'm constantly posting political opinions, personal stuff that I write, stuff that I admire, that other people have written, an article I'm recommending. Mostly what I'm posting has to do with politics. And then I get people who are my friends
Very much
who write about not using ever using my name, but saying I think all these people who are whining about politics, whining should go someplace else and stop ruining Facebook.
What? Jeez. Who was it who said we were a nation of whiners? Was that Mitt Romney?
Oh,
or
that was
one of those clowns.
it was one of them.
Yeah.
No,
Well, it's
that
a
was-
nation of non-voters also.
That
Yes.
was
That they don't
McCain's finance advice during his campaign. That right? That was
Oh,
McCain's
something like that.
finance
Yeah,
advisor.
Nation of Whiners. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a nation of wires.
It's good to have him on board.
Yeah,
trying to
they're
get
whining.
elected.
They don't
People
have
are
food.
starving,
They got
people losing
rats
their
in their
jobs by the
house.
thousands.
And now,
What are you
whining
now
about?
they even have one
Yeah.
where they have
Homeless?
these old-fashioned signs, and they'll put some current, word bubble coming out of the person's mouth. It's an old sign from the 40s or the 50s, and some lady
Right.
sitting in the kitchen with her
Her
apron
apron
or
and
whatever,
stuff, yeah.
and it says, "Oh," and she's talking on the phone, her pink phone. It says, "Oh no, dear,
Lord.
I didn't defriend you. I just blocked you, so I didn't have to read all your political rantings or something." I mean, it's actually now a thing.
Wow.
A whole graphic for people like your friends.
Yeah, I just thought you're actually taking time and energy to rail against people who are trying to,
Make the world a better place. Yeah.
help our country out a little bit.
Yeah.
The place where you live. Oh, God.
The world's full of them. I was petitioning once at the Park Slope Farmers Market, and asked this woman, she'd sign my petition. She got all huffy. She's like, "This is my weekend. This is my day off. How can you possibly,
Yeah. Oh, God.
ruin
You're
my
supposed to know
weekend like
everything about
this?"
her before you
Yeah.
met her.
I'm like,
Right.
ruin your weekend
You
by
should
trying
have
to
asked her.
get
You
you
should
some
have asked her for her
representation.
Facebook name so you can send her stuff. on Facebook.
Email
Can I come see you on Monday?
Here's another message every 5 minutes.
Right. Did you know about this? That would be great. You could probably really drive them out of their minds.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't understand that attitude.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
That makes me wonder: is that a non-voter? Is that
Somebody who
Sometimes
doesn't
they're
want to have
real
anything to do with
right-wing,
politics,
and
or
they're
they
just
still,
like, you know, like this
yeah.
country,
They're still
go to
voting.
Vietnam or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
You know?
Love it or leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually been doing some research into into non-voters. Like a lot of them, because the Census Bureau releases reports, I think, every few years saying.
But they do vote.
they like to ask,
Yeah, a lot of
asking people who
non-voters, they
don't-
vote sometimes.
Well,
and
they
not
vote on
other
these
times.
fucking stupid shows. Vote for your favorite dancer.
Oh
right.
yeah, they vote for American.
Yeah,
Calling
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Number one.
When you vote, you vote with your dollar. And you just buy
You
stuff.
gotta pay for those cell phone, those text messages, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have unlimited.
Yeah.
How do you make it exciting? I don't know. He was saying.
No, like most people say, like a lot of people say, like they were not interested, don't like the candidates. That's a big one. Like
Right, and my
millions
vote
of
doesn't make a
people.
difference.
That's another big reason people give. Another one is that they had problems registering. Like they wanted to vote, but like they missed a deadline or whatever to
Yeah,
register.
you have to
Yeah,
register
you're
30
limited.
days
You're
before
right,
and all
This
this
kind
crap.
of, and that's and if you add all those reasons up, like those whatever,
Millions of
not
people.
like or whatever, don't like the candidates, technicality or whatever registration thing. It's like millions and millions of people just because they don't like Democrats or Republicans.
Yeah, I see it like a restaurant. If you don't like what's in the menu, you don't go to the restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, so-
Right, or you might go once and not go back. Well, I was really surprised. I read this book called Non-Voters, and they did a big study over time at Northwestern, I think, or someplace. Maybe it was at Medill. And one thing that surprised me was that a lot of non-voters, they're not ignorant. They read the papers every single day. They know everything that's going on. They just don't want to participate because they think it's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, like it's a rigged game.
Yeah.
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 What was the book
but
called?
it is a rigged
Non-voters?
game.
Yeah.
It is, it's. I mean, I can.
It has a subtitle, which
I can.
It's a great book.
Kind of why I don't
sympathize with-
gamble. It's like why I don't go to Vegas. I don't
Right,
why I
you're
don't
just
go to
throwing your
Atlantic
money
City.
away.
Right.
Because it's in their favor.
That's exactly it. And
Similar.
I, up until very recently, was a person who said you have to vote. You absolutely have to vote. And for the first time in my life, I am.
A hard time saying that.
Yeah, I'm questioning that position now because everything that has happened and continues to happen, and for everything that we've been discussing, it's like Jesus,
Right.
I can't be that demonstrative about it anymore. I can't make that argument anymore to
Right.
anybody who's going to say they don't vote.
Yeah, it's
It's,
harder too.
especially now, there must be at least 4 to 5 documentaries now just on electronic voting.
Oh,
Fraud, electronic
Yeah.
voting fraud.
Yeah.
It's just, and there's one, I think it was called Steal Your Vote or something. I think it was called Stealing Your Vote or something like that. Where it's just like overwhelming. Like it's almost like, okay, yeah, it's like a black hole. You put your
And by
ballot in
fraud,
there.
you mean the people who are counting the votes, the people
Counting.
who are controlling the machines and.
Yeah, and the defects, all the facts that have been
Yeah,
discovered.
there's a lot of problems.
And the ownership. And
Well, yeah.
Even I was doing research on stuff like this in 2000, and there was a 20%. I think it was like a 20% of Diebold at the time was owned by Saudi Arabians even at that time. I mean now it's.
I
like-
remember that, yes,
Now the
yes,
ownership
yes, yes.
is like now it's been like gone through like 5 different ownerships,
Yeah.
Wow.
and they still have the same sheen of or the new sheen of new improved and all that.
Yeah,
That to
they
me-
rebranded
that to me
themselves
is-
with a new name, didn't they?
Yeah, I
Oh
was
yeah,
gonna
it's
say,
like
yeah,
completely.
'cause they're
They were bought out.
Way too much
were they?
publicity for
And
their
then
name.
if you look
kinda
at the
Blackwater.
Wikipedia Institute, they've changed the name. They've been
Really?
bought out, and then they were like bought out again, and the name has changed like 5 times.
I just recently learned that and I was like, God damn it, these freaking banks, like the banks are in everything. Like Diebold, I just learned got into the voting machine business from the
From the
ATM
ATM business. Well, and ATMs, they work because people wouldn't stand for having just their money, disappearing without any explanation. All the time.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Well, the money does disappear, but however, it's back. It's insured. U.S. government reimburses it back. But they don't report on the money disappear. I mean, it does disappear.
No, it does. No,
But
I've
it's
never had a
insured.
problem.
So, however you vote, no insurance for that. Once it's gone, it's
Voting insurance. That's an interesting idea.
Voting
Voting
insurance.
insurance.
Yeah.
Can I insure like
When you deliver mail, right? You're going to be delivering your vote. I want to get a
Right, I want
certification.
that
I want
it's
to be
gonna be
notified
in
when it's
there.
been counted, who it's been counted by, where it was
That'd be
counted,
great.
etc. Certified
certified vote.
insurance certification.
Well, they talked about somewhere about possibly having a voting system where it's through the computer, and I know that that's a really scary prospect because it's so easy
Just
to
like
hack.
online.
Hacking, but we have a holy, and I use the WHOL and HOL whole system that it's too porous. It's too subject to fraud and human error and all those other things. So it's sort of trading a really system that we already know it doesn't work very well for one that could possibly work better and make it easier for people to vote. And what was my other point?
But it could be worse.
But it's already easy for people to vote. Well, they just have to get off the couch, walk to the local
It's not
voting
Right,
place.
but I was getting back to what Jason was saying about having your, then you get, a ping when your vote's been counted, or you get some sort of alert,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
They
I
could
said,
do
I don't know
it, I'm
about
sure.
computers,
It's
but
technically
it's
possible.
if we could almost guarantee some way that we knew it was
It's just people have so much at stake in the outcome that
banks.
it's really hard
Banks
to
have pretty
remove
hard
that
systems to hack into,
self-interest
right? I
out of
mean,
it.
the Federal Reserve must have a really secure computer system, right?
You'd think the same thing about the Pentagon, and yet there's WikiLeaks, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Although you make a good point. I haven't heard of the Fed being hacked, or you don't often hear of leaks from the Fed.
Yeah.
Actually, I do think those ATM machines are really quite high in accuracy. I think other things happen, like, I've had identity theft a couple of times, where money's been taken out of my bank account, but the bank just gives it back to me. I guess they have insurance, or it's just a cost of doing business for them. It's nothing
If
to
they
them.
didn't
It
give
is,
it back to you,
it's-
Yeah, but if they didn't give it
about
back to me, and people would just lose faith in the banks, and they can't afford that. So
I think the difference, though, what makes the election machines harder to program is the fact that it has to be anonymous.
yes,
Like
that's right.
Right.
there's kind of like conflicting protocols in a voting machine.
Yeah, so
because
if
it
they
has-
pinged you,
it
they'd
has
have to
be-
know it was you that
have to
voted
be-
for Hillary
Exactly,
Clinton or whoever,
right,
and
right.
that
You have
there's
to
a
know
lot of
who it is and who they
bad
voted for, but you can't
consequences
know
that
who it
can
is.
Yeah,
come.
so it really is the opposite of banking.
Yeah.
You
Banking, it's
you
all
want to
about
know
identity.
where your name is everywhere,
Yeah.
every document, with every cent, every transaction, has your
That's
name
one
and
of the
date,
things.
and everything.
Right.
So
I mean, but they check your ID when you come in to vote, but then and it's very easy to get that information. You know who's voted.
They don't
Yeah.
check
You just don't know.
We don't have a voter ID
Really?
checking in New York.
Well, they ask you
You
your
gotta be
name.
on the list,
I
yeah.
guess.
They ask you your name,
yeah,
but they
I'm
don't.
sorry, yeah, they just ask
They
you
don't
your
check an
name.
ID. Yeah.
They don't try to make sure that you are who you say you are. But
Right.
I have to head out.
What time is
all
it?
right, it's good
It's
to
a
see
little
you.
bit before 5.
Oh,
It's
it
like
is.
5 to 5.
Well, we're just about done anyway, right?
Did you have a?
Can you stay for a
short
minute?
report back? Sure,
Let me
yeah.
just tell you about this, because I don't know if we want to do anything about it. I know we had difficulty coming to any kind of agreement about campaign finance reform, but maybe some people will be interested in a subcommittee, because this does make a difference, and it's happened in some other states, and looks like it may be happening now. This is a document that Citizen Action released on the 24th, saying public financing of elections is a key government reform. We want this to happen. It's signed by all these different organizations, if you wanted to look at that. So they had this meeting on Thursday. This is my report from my other Green Party member who was there. Said they ran out of seats. There was probably 45 to 50 people there. Lots of Democratic Party groups, Move On, local Democratic clubs, Obama people, working families, but also some of the core members from the May 12th coalition, Vocal, Community Voices Heard, Strong Economy for All, that seemed newer to the issue, and the Brennan Center was there, and Democracy Matters. Strong Economy for All is, it's mostly unions that are involved in that, but there are some other economic justice groups as well. Citizen Action seems to have given up on pure public campaign financing. For years, the good government groups were divided between the Gang of Three, Common Cause, NYPIRG, League of Women Voters, supporting the New York City finance model. In New York City, in elections, if you reach a certain threshold of fundraising, which is very low, it's high for mayor, but for city council, all you have to do is raise $5,000 from at least 75 people in your district, and there's a limit on the amount of donations. I think it's $175 per person. But once you hit that, then they'll match you 6 to 1.
Oh my God.
Yes.
For the money after that? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and for the money after that, up to a
Who's
certain
they?
point. The city, New York City. So it's not pure public
it's a
campaign
matching.
finance, because some money's coming like from the private sector, if you will, but more money's coming from the city. It's awesome for the Green Party. It allowed us to really have competitive campaigns.
Is that new? When did that come in?
It's not new. I don't know how long it's been.
I think I like the kind of the mixed system better than.
I do
purely
too.
one
I
or
mean,
the
I think
other.
you should be able to demonstrate some actual support from people in your district,
Yeah.
human beings. It shouldn't all come from the government, I don't think. But anyway, so that's one model, and some groups have been supporting that and like wanting to expand that to the state elections. Right now, we don't have it for state elections, only for the city. And for mayor, you have to raise $250,000, so it's like a whole different level.
Yeah, this is a details I would have to look into, but as far as the amount of money, who's determining, it's always these numbers and
Right.
these things that are like now legal, and it's like who was it that made this
Came up with
made
this?
this
Law. How many people and why this number like that?
I have no idea.
I'm just
Right,
saying
right.
as a
Yeah, you'd
something to
one would wanna
always
know
like
that.
keeping in mind,
Yes.
like when you have this limit and you have this limit, and it has to be this number of people, this amount of money.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'm sure on some level it's kind of arbitrary, but I do know
I think
in
it's important though, as far as
Yes.
175, 75 people, all these
Right.
things end up becoming like the big,
Right,
all
they
the small
become
things create the big,
Yes, they
overall
do,
thing.
and I'm sure they usually come out, out of some compromise. Somebody wanted a lot more, somebody else wanted a lot less. and
Yeah,
they
like
met
what's the
somewhere in
history
middle.
of that?
Yeah,
It's interesting to
yeah,
wonder what that history is.
yes. Well, that's what it is now, and then so these groups that like this model have been fighting with Citizen Action, and another model which is called basically Clean Money, Clean Elections, and that's where all the money is public, I believe, and I think that's what they have in Arizona. I'm not sure. In Maine, they have a form of it, and I know you have to get like $5 donations from X number of people who live in the state. It's a good system, and they've elected better people
$5.
as a result. Yeah, I mean, almost everyone can do that. So, Citizen Action said that recent court cases involved campaign financing in Arizona and Massachusetts had basically killed the model because apparently they've agreed giving candidates more money if their opponent raises outside of the CMCE system is a violation of free speech. What? So I guess you're a clean money candidate. You've agreed to just take the money the government gives you, and then if your opponent goes out and gets millions of dollars from the real estate developers, then they'll give you more to match them. Apparently, and that apparently has been blown up by a court case.
I think something similar happened, like that happened in Connecticut too, or something.
Did it?
Something similar. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So that's a little bit of history. They said that Sheldon Silver was a big leader in the assembly on bringing the New York City model to the state. He has a bill that and I know they do this, they have a big Democratic majority in the assembly, and they pass this bill all the time, and then it dies in the Senate where there's a razor-thin Republican majority. Hasn't been reintroduced this year. They don't know whether they want to push it this year or wait for Cuomo, okay? About a third of Assembly Democrats really support, a third just follow Silver, and about a third really oppose it. So, since New York City is the key to the New York City Assembly power base, they want to do a lot of door-to-door outreach in the city. They want to do a series of town hall meetings in March, and maybe some kind of kick-off press event in February. And they wanted some creative ideas for that. So I would think that some of us might, at the very least, want to go to one of these town hall
Yeah,
meetings.
town halls.
You
I
know,
would definitely want to go, yeah.
yeah, and talk about our ideas and stuff. A few people expressed skepticism that Silver and the Democrats really support campaign financing, or they just vote for it because there's no chance of passing the bill to say that they've done it. It says, look how we were lied to by the Democrats and Republicans around redistricting. The Silver bill is also limited, does not deal with other issues that Cuomo mentioned in the State of the State address that Governor Cuomo made recently. He did say that public campaign finance reform is an issue that he wants to move on, that he thinks is really important.
Yeah, I recently read that.
Yeah. I personally,
Surprised about it.
yeah, I hate that fucker more than anything on earth. And so I don't know why he's claiming to support it. But anyway, he did say that, so that's good. Does not deal with other issues that Cuomo mentioned, like reducing campaign contribution limits and banning pay-to-play.
Well, because 70% of New Yorkers support public funds, so that's what he
That's
does.
right.
Right. He's a man of people.
Of course he is.
Represents all diversity in New York
Governor,
City as a
99%.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But yes, that is really the key point right there. Everyone wants it, except the few people who are lining their pockets by getting their money
The other,
from other people.
the other 29.9% are just not aware of it. If they were, they would.
Right, they would
It
support.
would be 99.
Or one of their relatives is a state legislature and they put through college and getting a giant home built or whatever.
I'm sure it's all been against their will.
Right. All right, so that's that. And so Mark, who's my guy, asked whether Cuomo was really working with the public campaign finance advocates on this. If you know anything about Cuomo, you know that he's Mr. Backroom Deal. Everything he's done, like the gay marriage and everything, it's just been him and a couple guys in a room. They come up and say, here it is, let's vote for it, and then that's the process. Some secret
True
talks.
democracy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cuomo-ocracy.
There you go.
Right.
Some secret talks, I guess,
Cuomo-ocracy.
have taken place. Probably better that way. This is similar to gay marriage vote. Blah, blah, blah. Cuomo is saying, I'm willing to do something, but first the advocates have to show that there's really community support for this, so go out and get the support. Generally, there will be some backdoor communications that a few of the groups will be listened to on the bill. This is why I hate working these coalitions. It's probably the Brennan Center, maybe Citizens Union, and Working Families Party. Nice. Former Brennan, the Brennan Center, if you don't, do you guys, are
I
you
actually
guys?
applied for a job there twice for research, being a researcher.
Yeah, I applied for that job too. That I would love to work for them. They do a lot of great work, but
I'll try to do a backroom deal with them or something.
there you go. I don't think I'm actually have a research job, but I don't think they have the kind of qualifications they'd want. But anyway, so it's saying a former Brennan staff person now works for Cuomo on this, so that's a good sign. That may indicate that he does actually want to see something happen. The advantage of the New York City small donation match model is that it empowers more people to contribute, and legislators listen more to the constituents as a result. They're saying less dependent on the mega donors. One example was how many more New York City Council members were supportive of OWS than state legislators. And I do think some of the more progressive people in the city council have gotten there partly as a result. I mean, this certainly helped. They're trying to come up with a slogan for the campaign. And while Citizen Action ran the meeting, people were encouraged to comment. There was a lot of discussion, so it seemed like a high level of buy-in. And it doesn't seem like there was any real action item, just to let Citizen Action know if you want to be in the loop on this.
Do you have this on email or anything?
Yeah, I could email it to the group. This is my notes, and then the other thing that you have it there. That's just the official release that Citizen Action put
What's
out.
the website?
It's actually a little hard to find,
Is it?
but I think it's citizenactionny.org.
Okay.
If you
Yeah, I
Google
think
Citizen
that's-
Action, you're going to get all the
.org.
citizen actions around the country.
I didn't know.
Citizenactionny.org.
Yeah. I don't think they're really related necessarily. I think some of the groups have just kind of come up with that name.
Okay.
I know that it's a lot of labor backing for the Citizen Action here, too, but it's not all.
I got a boogie. I'm sorry. Got to go.
All right, so maybe should I put this out to the group and just see if anybody's interested in maybe getting involved in these town hall meetings or anything
Yes.
else
Yeah,
as it goes
definitely.
forward?
Definitely.
And put it up on the agenda for an upcoming meeting.
Okay,
Talk about it again.
that sounds
If anyone-
good.
'cause Cecilia and I were just talking before the meeting started about state. Because like for instance, the anti-corporate personhood thing. What's the next step?
Right.
Maybe moving from the city to this pressuring state.
Yeah.
And actually, now that it occurs to me, Albany has already passed an anti-corporate personhood
They have?
amendment. Yeah, they did it like 2 days. It was overshadowed by LA. They did it like 2 days before LA passed theirs.
That's interesting.
So
Really?
it already passed in Albany. Yeah.
I just posted a link that's supposed to have everything, like
What did
all
it-
the
oh.
ones that have passed.
Oh yeah.
It's on some thread on the forum. I don't know exactly. It's recent, last 48
A
hours.
resolution, right? Not,
Yeah.
Yeah,
resolution.
resolution.
Yeah. That's just
The
demonstrating support.
city of Albany.
Yeah.
City
Okay,
resolution.
Yeah, yeah.
sorry.
Oh, I
was
thought you meant
confused.
the
The state
state
gov- no,
legislature.
no,
or
the city of Albany.
Albany.
Okay, well that
Yeah,
makes
right.
that's yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. They've been very repressive to the OWS
Yeah.
there, from what I understand. Oh, this is-
I like this though. I think this is another part. This is another element of that. Corporations are not people. It's
Yes,
severing
it
the
is.
ties of money because we know where money comes from. It doesn't come from any of us. It comes from the big boys, right?
Yeah, people with skin in the game in terms of getting legislation for them.
Yep.
So I guess I'll give you this.
Oh yeah. Take this.
So next Sunday then?
Yeah, next Sunday.
And next Sunday, I'll be on time. I'm gonna, since Sam is upset right now, I'm gonna
Still
post
upset
the
right now.
next thread
I
for
will
the
definitely be
meeting.
on time.
You'll post
I
it?
was like,
I'll post it.
All right.
literally here like 3 or 4 minutes after 3. So
I just find it
he
so
didn't wait for
hard.
her.
Well, he should have waited at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was. Because I ran to you at 3:15.
I'm telling him
And I already
he should
been
have
there.
done. I'm just saying I would have waited
Great meeting,
at
guys.
least 10 minutes.